Welcome to Job Greatness, and this is the Resume Workshop. Tom and I both got a bunch of requests for a resume workshop, so here we are. I'm Terry Delavecchia, this is Tom Chaplin, and we are your hosts for this version of Resume. Tom, anything to add with that?
No, I don't think so. Hopefully, I think you'll find this workshop very informative. We're going to try to cover as much as we can about how to build your resume and the important sections that should be included. So
here we go. Okay. So your strengths, likes, and passions to find the right job. We thought we'd add a little humor to this one. So we're not talking about how strong you are, or your Facebook likes, or your romantic loves and passions. We're actually talking about the strengths that you have that you bring to a job. And that is the most important thing that you have on your resume and that you bring to an interview. It's the skills that they're looking for. It's how you connect to your success stories, and what really matters when you're looking at a job description. What really matters for that job? And there is no one size fits all on a resume. You will change it for every single job for which you apply. So you need to figure out what accomplishments you've had in the past and how they relate to the job for which you're applying. What gave you the most pride? How are those skills? If you like those skills and accomplishments, you absolutely want them on your resume. If it's something you hated to do, why would you put it there?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And part of what we're doing here is you don't want to fill your resume up, overload it with information. So that's one area that I think is important to be aware of is some people try to put everything on there. They load it up, and then they heard at some point, well, you have to have everything on one page, so you get this tiny little type that you need a magnifying glass.
And then you need more than reading glasses. You
you
can't read it no matter what.
So I think what's important. What we're saying here is make sure that your resume is customized for the job. Things that you strengths, likes, and passions that don't necessarily apply to the job may just be filling up your resume and overloading it and cluttering it. So it's one big no-no that you don't want to do.
And your strengths, everybody's got a ton of strengths. For every bullet point on your resume, there's other things below that you had to be good at in order to get that particular bullet point done. They don't all have to be listed. That's stuff you can go over during an interview. So it's the highlights. It's all the major things, the major skills that you've got that are the most important, especially for the particular job that you're looking at. If they're not asking for some of that stuff and it really has nothing to do with it, if you're going for a finance job, they don't have to know that you're a bodybuilder. I don't care how good you are at it. That might just be a conversation point later, whatever. It's just, it has to make sense and it has to be relevant.
Right. Yeah. And I worked with someone once who was part of a downsizing, and he was actively looking for a job. And one of the questions that this prospective employer asked him was, so what do you like to do in your spare time? And his answer was, I don't know if this was on his resume or not, but his resume was, my wife and I like to travel around the country riding roller coasters. And that cost him the job. He did not, I don't know what they were looking for.
But that wasn't it.
But that wasn't it. For some reason, they saw this guy as kind of an idiot, which I don't really get. I don't really understand.
It's okay for people to travel around the country going to, they want to hit every football field, but it's not okay to really like roller coasters no matter how old you are.
Yeah.
Isn't it? But and that's perspective.
Right,
That was the interviewer's perspective.
right. So
It's a shame.
it wasn't on his resume, but again, be careful what you put on your resume. That
Yeah, good
doesn't
point.
that if it doesn't apply to the job, I would say, yeah, your goal at this point is to get an interview, which
Yes,
is
that's all
your
the resume
resume.
is for.
Right. That's what your resume is going to help you do. So you don't need anything on there that's not going to apply. You may be the
No.
most fun person in the world, but if they're not looking for somebody who's a lot of fun, well, maybe the company isn't right for you, but it's not necessarily something that they need to know at this point.
Okay, so strengths. How about passions? What do you enjoy? What are your passions? What are your hobbies? You might not necessarily have some of those on a resume, like we were saying, but maybe they translate into a role or job. What if you love to knit? You're looking for a job, you haven't found anything you're really passionate about, you're switching careers. Have you ever thought about working in a knit shop? Teaching people how to knit? I mean, so think about what those passions are and what your hobbies are. They might translate into something different for you that might give you more passion and fulfillment in a career.
Right. Right.
Like the guy who rides roller coasters, maybe he wants to work in a circus.
Right. Yeah. And I always say the greatest job I ever had was in college when I was a lifeguard. And, that's not something that I put on my resume. but, but there are things about that I was, it was great for the variety of reasons, and that's the question you want to ask yourself. What is it about this that I was, what made me feel so passionate about this job?
What did you love about it?
Yeah, and that's where you can really make that connection to what you're looking for and communicate that type of passion.
Right.
Again, no matter what job you had, if you like it, there's something valuable there that you could certainly talk about.
Yeah, I had a client who actually hiked the Appalachian Trail. I mean, it took him months. It was one of those things. I mean, I think anybody who actually does that, because it's like, I don't know, thousands of miles, 1,000, whatever it is, it's something.
By him alone?
Yes, and his father met him part way, and they spent like a week together, which was pretty cool. And then he had to go back to work. But my client I think it was the summer out of between high school and college, or 1 year between, after 1 year of college ended, he had a break and he decided to do it. And when he was looking for a job, I said, you've got all this experience of what worked, what didn't work. He said he started leaving things, he completely overpacked, and they tell you minimal, you're carrying it with you, it's on your back.
Right.
And slowly but surely, he started weeding things out of the things that he really needed. I said, have you ever thought about working like an REI, where people are coming in looking for that kind of help, and you've done it?
Yeah.
You can help people with that kind of stuff. I mean, even if it's just an interim job while you're still in college, how cool would that be?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So don't discount some of those passions or the really cool things you've done that many people have never accomplished. It's important.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So one of the things that you don't think about are the hidden strengths. When you are asked a question in a different way, you come up with a different answer, which is all what coaching is about anyway. But sometimes you don't think about what those questions are, and there's nobody there to ask you.
Mhm.
So we created this little worksheet, and the actual document is online. What you want to do is fill these blocks out. What were your favorite subjects in school? And and then think about why were they your favorite? What do you like most about yourself? What do you get complimented on? Because people like things about you that you don't really think about. You might not realize if you ask somebody, what do you see in me, or that kind of stuff, you're going to get a different answer than if you just think about it on your own. What energizes you? Like working in a team? What are some of the unusual skills you have? What makes you unique? Because what makes you unique is what translates to getting a job during the interview. So remember, your resume is just the vehicle to get you to the interview. And the resume are just the facts about your jobs and your skills. That's it. Who you are, where you live, what jobs you've had. If what you choose to put on there is up to you, but you're not lying about anything on your resume. It's your education, it's just facts. But there are some hidden strengths that you've got that you wouldn't have thought about that might be applicable.
Absolutely. I have an example from a client who is a kind of a whiz at managing, developing, implementing, managing budgets, and for a company. But one thing that came out of this that she didn't realize, that just completely went over her head, was that her particular strength around that was being able to work miracles with tiny budgets.
Ooh. And how to stretch them?
Yeah, well, honestly, she was able to do quite a bit. I mean, she could go into a company that had a little kind of a baby budget, and they were struggling. They were in the red, and she could turn things around. She would do this over and over and over again. Wow. People valued that.
Sure.
So whether or not they, the companies that had always had the wrong people in place that got them in that position, she was able to get them out. And it's a real strength. It's an asset. Totally.
And that's something that you would put on your resume as you're looking for the next job. How much money, how you got them out of whatever predicament they were in. And I mean, that's amazing. That's very cool. And any number of organizations would love that.
Yeah, total success story that came out of this. One that she just did not see in herself. It's hard to be objective about yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's why we have these tools, and that's what coaching helps. And that's, there are other things like the 360, of course, where you ask people, for feedback on your work. But there are various things that, various ways of getting that objective perspective on you.
Yes. And it is really important. It is very important to know what you don't know.
Right. What you don't see.
Yeah, that.
Because we know it. We just don't see it. We're kind of blind to it. It's that blind spot that we have.
It is a blind spot.
Yeah.
So one of the other things, and we've covered this in a couple of different workshops, so we're not going to go into a lot of detail here. The elevator pitch is something that you can use throughout your whole career, but a piece of it, once you have your elevator pitch, a piece of it would be part of your summary. It's who you are, what you would bring to the job, why you want it. That's your elevator pitch. What you want somebody to know about you in 30 seconds or less is pretty much it. If you met somebody in an elevator. The summary is the only place on a resume where you have creative license. Yes, it's facts, but you can wordsmith it. It's just a little different. So let's say I am, and let's say my ex-career was in information technologies, and now let's say I'm a coach, which I am, and I'm looking for a coaching job in an organization. And they can see that I have X number of years in IT. Well, in the summary is where I would not make them work so hard. I don't want my resume to hit the trash because they see I've got 30 years in IT and they're looking for a coach. Near the twain shall meet, they don't understand. So I would say in my summary, my passion is coaching and mentoring people, which I started doing at the end of my IT career. Now I've decided to switch roles entirely and just be a full-time coach, or something there in thereabouts, so that they understand when they read the rest of my resume, it's going to make sense. Your
Right.
summary is where that happens.
And it should be, it should answer the question, why is this person applying for this job?
Right. So you write in some of the demonstrated qualities for that particular role that you're applying to. And that's another thing why the resume, one size does not fit all. So if you're applying, let's say you are a finance person and you're applying as an accountant for this one, it's going to say something. And if you're applying as a just budgeting, it's going to be a little different. Or if you are going to be the person that helps with grants because you want to work for a nonprofit and help bring them money in, it's going to be very different. Even though you're an accountant, every summary is going to be very, very different for why you are now looking in that role. And that's why the elevator pitch is pretty important, because if you meet somebody networking, you want to tell them what you're looking for, why, what you're doing, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. But just a piece of that can be your summary too. So your resume, this is it. Picture's worth 1,000 words. So typically in your heading, you have the name, your address, and you don't necessarily have to have your street address. You must at least have city, state, because if a company is not willing to pay relocation fees or that kind of stuff, they want to know whether you're in the same general vicinity or not. So if you're, interviewing in Chicago and this job happens to be in Idaho, they might not want you. Or
Right.
if your summary saying, I'm moving to Chicago, I had family there now, maybe they would interview you. But you have to have at least a city, state. People want to know where your
Right.
general vicinity is.
Right. Right.
You have to have phone number and email because they have to be able to get in touch with you. And the email is very important. Please make sure that it is a businessy kind of looking email. It can be your name and a number, it can be whatever, but don't have something stupid. I've seen too many people where they thought they were being really cutesy, and that's great for your friends if it's an email, like Terry Bodybuilder at gmail.com. No. No.
Yeah. That's like riding the roller coasters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roller coaster heaven.
Yeah.
Gmail.com. Nope.
It should be relatively professional, something
Yes.
that's going to be acceptable by an organization, people
Right.
you don't know.
And it wouldn't hurt to create one. If you want to have a personal one and a business one for all your resumes to go to, that's even
Absolutely.
easier. So you don't have to weed through them. So there is something to be said for that too.
Totally.
And obviously your summary, which we already talked about. Now, there are a couple of different things that you can do. If you are just out of school and you've got no real work experience, your education might go before work experience because you're a newbie. But if you have work experience, typically your education goes after, because the work experience is what they're looking for. Skills can go after your summary. They can go at the end. And it really is, I guess, personal preference, Tom, don't you think? I don't know. I don't, it depends on, I guess, the type of job. If it's more technical, maybe it should go up at the top.
Yeah, I think it depends on the job. Like when I would interview or recruit for IT people, I wanted to see, I liked a summary, a strong summary, and the skills.
Yep, I agree.
Right up front. And if it wasn't a technical position, sometimes the skills don't necessarily, they're not all that it's not necessary to highlight them by putting them right at the top of the resume. I think the bottom. So, that it's kind of, it varies. I think it depends on the type of job.
I agree. So I mean, if it is technical, I totally agree with you. If it's not, um, let's say you're going for a nursing job, your education is very important along with your work experience and the certifications you have. And then the skills could go in the bottom, like, so you've worked on computers or Word or whatever, and they might be an important piece of the job, but not as important. So,
Right.
it definitely does depend. Now, this is a chronological resume. At times you might do a blend of chronological and functional. I am not a fan of the purely functional resume. To me, it's
Yeah.
very hard to read for dates, and I'm just not a big fan of it.
It always looks like the person's trying to hide something, which
Yeah, I agree.
I think they usually are. There's a
Maybe.
reason why people use a functional, but I think I agree that a blend is really, in so many situations, so many resumes, especially if you have I'm not gonna, let me take that back. But if there are things that you want to highlight, you want the person to see up front, creating a highlight section after the summary, with maybe 3 to 5 bullets, just highlighting the things that are most important. Maybe you just completed a certification that is important for this job you're applying to, a very difficult certification. It's up to you. You have to decide what is relevant for this job. But a highlight section, I found when reviewing a lot of technical resumes, I like it because you've got your summary, you've got your skills, you've got your highlights, and then I can decide if I want to go through the rest of the resume. Does it look like this person is qualified based on easy reading?
Yes.
And
you don't want the person reading the resume to have to work too hard. You
right.
don't.
Well, and they're probably not going to work too hard.
No,
So
it's going to hit the trash.
you've got to make things as simple as you possibly can. You just have to think, I don't know who's going to be reviewing this resume.
Right.
And I don't know what criteria they have been given to weed resumes out. So you just need to make things as simple as possible. And that's what I like about the beginning of a resume, because you can do that. You have the luxury to do that and just make it kind of foolproof. So people can see exactly who you are, what you've done, and whether or not you are a fit.
Correct. I totally agree. If you look at the resume that I just posted, so it's got the name, the city, state, all the requisite information at the top that is needed so that they can get in touch with them. They've got the skills, their summary. One of the interesting things is, so as he said, if there's some, like Six Sigma is specific to certain manufacturing plants. And it is sometimes it's not an easy certification. So if that was something they were looking for in the job description, they are a Six Sigma company, that would be, I can't snap. That would be something that they would say, oh, this person already has a piece. We wouldn't even have to send them to training.
Yeah, you want to highlight that. Or maybe
Absolutely.
a PMP certification for a particular company. Not all companies care about that
Correct.
certification, but a lot of them do. A lot of them want that.
Especially if it's a manufacturing plant. Stuff happens.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that you are able to help out if something happens is not a bad thing.
Right.
So this is one of the resumes that we wanted to show. And here's another one. And I know it's on 2 screens because it was a long one. And so this one has the summary. It's got certifications or as a notable skills, and they're at the end instead of at the beginning of this one. And it's above the education. But one of the things is, even though it goes to 2 pages, if you've got a lot of experience that is relevant to the job you're applying, If it makes sense, leave it on. In reality, anything older than 10 or 12 years, you can leave off. 15 years easily, if it's all some of the same skills. And what you can write on there is, for additional information, see my LinkedIn profile. And you can have everything out there.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Because if you've had, like at the beginning of your career 15 years ago, you had a couple of different jobs and you're doing all the same things and you're just repeating it over and over and over, leave it off.
Right, right.
If you had a different job back then and it had some skills that you hadn't done and it is needed on this new job you're applying for, then you would leave it there. Or you would put it as a separate skills and say, see my LinkedIn or whatever. On LinkedIn, if you use it correctly, all of your job stuff should be out there. But in reality, you don't want to date yourself either. You don't want them to have to, you don't want them to necessarily figure out that you're 55 years old looking for a new job.
Right, right. Depending on the company too,
Sure.
again. Yeah, I mean, some companies,
Don't care.
obviously, they appreciate a 55-year-old.
That is true. So it really, he's right, and everyone is different, every organization's different, and you've got to kind of do your research to try and figure that out.
Exactly, yeah.
Is there anything else we want to say about this one?
I don't think so. I think the only thing I would add is really just adding to something you already said, but I've seen people try to, they've heard that, oh, I got to get everything on one page. And but they have all this experience. So again, it just gets jammed into that one page. And you've got, with this small font and no margins.
Right, it goes to the edge.
And you look at this resume and it's a turnoff. Visually, you do not want to read it. It looks like, if you have a stack of resumes to go through and you have limited time to go through them, this one looks like it would require work.
Well,
so you don't want to, you don't want to make the person have to work.
No, you don't. And they're not stupid. They know exactly what you did.
Right. Right.
You're trying to hide the fact that it would have gone to 2 pages.
Yeah, they just read a resume book and they and they were told to put it on one page.
Right.
But if you're, I think I always look at one-page resumes as necessary for somebody who does not have a whole lot of experience. Somebody who's right out of college, somebody who maybe has 1 or 2 jobs, you can usually get all that on one page easily enough. But when you get up to 15 years and you may have, you have all these skills, you've got all these other things that are important to add to your resume. It's hard to do that with one page.
It is. But the other thing is going through your resume with a fine-tooth comb and saying, is this relevant for the job I'm applying? And does it show any more or less about me that some of the other ones don't? So you always like on this resume on the right side, it says increased headcount by 33% to support business growth. If it's important, if it's numbers where you saved money or, that kind of stuff, you want to put it on there. If it isn't relevant, just because you did it, it doesn't matter.
Right. Totally.
Yeah. And you want to stand out from all the 15 other resumes on somebody's desk. So you don't necessarily want all black and white. You might want your name in a different color or a different font. You might want to do something different that isn't hokey, but you want to stand out.
Yeah. I have a pretty good example too of somebody. This was a CFO. He had a ton of work experience at the executive level from a variety of companies all over Manhattan. And I can't remember why he left his last job, but I was in New York and I met with him, and we talked about his resume briefly. His resume was, I don't remember, it was at least 8 pages long.
Oh, God.
And everything was on there because what he had done was going back to, I think the 80s maybe was when he, the beginning of his career. He hadn't updated it. So it's like all the bullets that he had or all the descriptors that he
He just
had,
kept bringing everything back in.
he just kept adding to the resume. And now when you go back and when you look at everything, it looks like really good experience. It's a very, I mean, if anybody who's going to take the time to read the resume, you can see the progression of his career and how, it all makes sense. But it was just, you don't want to
It's
send somebody an
overwhelming.
8-page resume.
No, it's
you know,
overwhelming.
it's just there are other things you can do. There are some options there when you are at a very high level like that. But still, I worked on his resume for him. And I don't remember how much it got whittled down, but it was quite a bit. It was quite a bit because there was so much that no longer applied.
Right. And in some cases, all you do is have the company name and the years that you worked there.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
your title.
The title.
So no bullet points because
Yeah,
it's
and the
older.
title. And that pretty much, anybody, and that's
And
good
it
enough.
still shows you progression from,
I think that's
admin
perfect.
assistant to a this, to a senior, to a blah, 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 and it's just, but it takes up 2 lines and you have no bullet points.
Right.
I mean, there are ways around it. And if you need help once you've gone through our workshop, email us. We're always willing to help. If there's something that we're missing out of this, we want to know that too, by the way. All right, last resume. This one, the skills are at the bottom, and it's computer skills. So this is a technical one. And this is the one we were talking about. Well, actually, it's not a technical one, but it is, they're just showing their technical skills at the bottom in case it is something that was important to this role.
Right. Yeah. And in this case, I think the work experience is more important.
I agree.
And I think this resume is, I think I like the layout of it.
I do too. It's just clean.
Yeah. And there's a lot of experience on here. This person has quite a bit.
Right. We use the word employer in place of the
Right.
name of the organization to protect the innocent, by the way. So employer really would be a name of a company in each of these areas.
Right.
Just so you guys understand.
Right. Yeah. We went through and sanitized everything. So anyway, another example.
Oops.
Well, I want to point one thing out just so this doesn't get
Let me go
confusing.
back.
Because this last position is not 2006 to 2021. This resume was old. I think this was from 2007.
Oh, okay.
So that's why, there are only a few bullets under this one job and more.
It was new. Okay, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
which kind of contradicts everything we've been saying, but it's
Right.
old.
So when, in today's age, sometimes you can upload a cover letter. Sometimes you can only upload your resume and that's it. And if you can only upload your resume, then the summary really is very important because that's the only place you can say why you happen to be going from A to B or whatever. If you can upload a cover letter, you have a little bit more creativity. You can go into a little bit more detail or do the hook to get them interested in reading your resume. But it's very important that you try and, if you can figure out who the cover letter really goes to, that's great. Sometimes you can't. You don't know, who to address it to. It's just the hiring person or whatever they put on the job description. But you want to highlight your skills, why you're applying, and you always want to say what job you're applying to. Don't make them guess. There are a lot of organizations that have, 3 or 4 different jobs that they have openings for at any given time. They don't want to have to guess which one you're applying to. Make it abundantly clear. So you're applying for X job and perfect fit for my, with my skills of da 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 da, whatever. Highlight any of the achievements that would be, perfect for this job and why. And you always ask for a chance to interview, to discuss further your blah, 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 blah.
Right. And make sure you reference your resume. You can say, I have all the skills needed for this job, as you'll notice on my resume. Yeah. And then make that connection so that they go look at your resume.
Absolutely. If there are specific things in the job description that they said they need, reference them in the cover letter that you have them. I see on, in the job description, you have blah, 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 blah. I did this in my job as a whatever. It makes them want to go to your resume. Tom's absolutely correct.
Yeah, and and again, we're also making it easy for them. They should be reading the cover letter first, and
Correct.
they should want to read your resume after the cover letter.
Spelling, grammar, very important on a cover letter. Don't discount it. It's your first impression that they have of you. So make sure, spell check works very well. Use it.
Yeah, and one other thing I'll say is that I'll add to this is personalize the cover letter as much as possible. When you reference the job you're applying to, they know that you haven't run off 500 copies of a resume, of a cover letter that you're sending to everybody, because a lot of people do that. It's like, dear employer, and then the cover letter is designed. It's just a template basically that they can send over and over and over to every job. So, and of course that gives you, it gives the impression that, and 9 times out of 10, when you call that person on the phone, they don't remember applying to your job. So personalize it as much as possible. It's worth the time.
Truly, it's the same thing. You can't have one resume fits all, one cover letter does not either. You have to reference, the job that you're applying, and you're going to change some stuff because every job description asks for different things for different companies. So if you do one size fits all, you're not even going to get in for the interview. They won't read any further. They're going to know it.
Right. Yeah, you're not telling me anything I
time.
want, that I'm looking for. You're not telling me what I want to hear or showing me what I want to see. So it's like, next.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're wondering why you're not getting a call back, that's one of the reasons. So, overview. Dig deep. Figure out what you really want to do and go look for jobs that have some of those things, and then update your resume and your cover letters to show that. It's really not rocket science, but it takes work. It just does. You can't just, as Tom said, just, roll off a bunch and they all look the same, and you just won't get anywhere. So it's not worth wasting your time and anybody else's to upload it and read it. Make your summary interesting. Make yourself unique. Your resume is the first impression. You got to make it count. You want to get in to get the interview. That's the whole point of your resume, getting in for the interview. Anything else?
I think we've covered everything, I believe. I don't think there's anything else I have to add to this.
So, any
I guess,
questions?
yeah, I think, I think, and I apologize if you already mentioned this. Yeah, if you feel like you need help with your cover letter, what are we gonna put one like a,
Yeah, we can put a cover letter. It'll be in our reference documents, but it's also as you downloaded this, there's a cover letter template out there for you to look at, as well as some other templates like the hidden strengths and stuff. They're all in the same place where you downloaded this, so you can get some information. But we also have a references tab with other stuff on there too that might help you.
good, good. Yeah. Yeah. And then, you know, and that of course will help you get started if you're stuck a lot of times when people, yeah, I mean, it's hard to write a resume on your own, and it's hard to write a cover letter. And a lot of times you just need that kind of that jump start, you know, to get you going. But if you have any questions, you need any extra help, we're here. You can certainly feel free to contact us.
Right. And if there's any other workshops that you think would be great for us to do, please let us know. We're always interested in what anybody needs out there. And if we can do something to help, we are all about it. So coaching@jobgreatness.com for any emails, for questions, for additional help, as Tom said, with your cover letter or resume. If you want us to review something for you, we can certainly talk about that too.
Absolutely. We're here.
Thank you for sharing your home with us.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for joining. And hopefully you'll have a winning resume now.
There you go. And get that job.
Yeah. All
Thank
right.
you. And
Take
bye-bye.
care.